What a beautiful day it is today. And if I looked at the calendar correctly this morning, it's September 19th, which is the 101st anniversary of the day that Paramahansa Yogananda landed on the shores of America to bring his message of how to live a God-centered, God-inspired, God-intoxicated life. And so I'm going to do my best to continue in that tradition with my message of, in this series, how do we live? How shall we live? And today's topic is to love abundantly. Experience the divine meeting of our heart and our mind. The sages from many traditions, as we listen, we can hear them calling out to us to awaken. I think of Swami Vivekananda saying, "Arise, awake, stop not until the goal is reached." Rumi, don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Or Lao Tzu, the great way is easy, yet people prefer the side paths. And he said, be aware when things are out of balance, and stay centered within the Tao. So lesson 1, live simply, can be summed up as avoid the side paths. Avoid distraction from what really matters. Don't get distracted. Don't go back to sleep. The simple life, then, that is a dedicated life of God-conscious awareness, is anchored in awareness of spirit, anchored in that experience of our essence of being mindful of that, being aware of that through divine communion, whether it's our daily meditation practice that helps us be aware as we enter our day or as we enter the sleep state at night, or whether it's prayer, whether it's scriptural study, whether it's moments of mindfulness throughout our day. It's that experience, that direct experience of spirit, that seeing into the reality of what is, that is the organizing principle that simplifies our life. Trying to simplify our life outwardly is, a treadmill. So first we start with that simple, the most simple thing possible, which is divine remembrance. Then our restless thoughts settle, our discernment becomes clear, our intuition awakens, and we spot those side paths. And so we can better avoid them, right? We see what actually brings peace and lasting happiness, and we also discern what brings sorrow. So we follow the awakened way. Our choices become clearer. We choose what Lao Tzu called the great way, a life in balance where our heart and our mind, our heart, the divine self, and mind can meet and work in unison. And this is a life that is guided by divine love. Now, a really good question when we speak about love, or we're having a conversation about love, is, what do we mean by that? What do we mean when we say love? Well, here in this conversation with you. Now, I mean that, capital L love, that divine love which connects us. That reality of spirit which connects us, and by us I mean everyone and everything, that which connects us to the reality of God is divine love. And loving abundantly for us is living in, consciously living in and being guided by that love, by that connection to God, that connection to one another, that connection to the reality of consciousness expressing as all that is. Jesus taught, as you know, that the greatest commandment is to love God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind, with all of our strength, and following that, then to love our neighbor as ourself. As ourself. That's the awakened vision of love, isn't it? Seeing that one reality in all that is and responding to it, interacting with it. In the Christian Bible, in the New Testament, 1 John verse 8, if you do not love, you don't know God, for God is love. And then a Jnana Yogi from the East, Ramana Maharshi, one of his students one day asked Ramana, said, love postulates duality. Can't you just hear it, right? Love postulates duality. How then can the self, capital S, be the object of love? And Ramana replied, love is not different from the self. Love of an object is of a lower type and cannot endure, whereas the self is love, God is love. Thus spoke Ramana. Now, that sounds pretty good. All of it. But it really doesn't do too much for us unless we experience and know it ourselves. Just knowing about it doesn't change much for us. So here's a story. A group of moths decide to go on a camping trip. And when they're camping, they fall in love with a nearby campfire. And they're talking amongst themselves, these moths, about how beautiful and attractive this fire is. So the leader of the moth group says, well, yes, but we should find out what this is. So you go over there, find out. So the first moth goes over there, checks it out. He comes back and he says, well, it's like a light. It's red and it's orange and has a yellow center and it has a shining aura all around it. And the leader said, yes, but there must be more. You go, you tell us. So the second moth flies over there, and this moth gets pretty close. In fact, his wings get singed. So he comes back and he says, whoa, you're right, it is hot. And it burns. And so then they say, well, we still don't quite know what it really is. And so the third moth takes off, flies right into the flame, disappears completely into the fire. Then the leader says to the group, well, that one really knows, but he can't say anything about it. Thus is the problem with divine love. Paramahansa Yogananda said, just as oil is present in every part of the olive, so love permeates every part of creation. But to define love is very difficult, for the same reason that words cannot fully describe the taste or the flavor of an orange. You have to taste the fruit to know its flavor. So it is with love. And Paramahansaji said, in the universal sense, love is the divine power of attraction in creation that harmonizes, unites, and binds together. Those who live in tune with the attractive force of love achieve harmony with nature and with their fellow beings. Those who live in tune with the attractive force of love achieve harmony with nature and with their fellow beings. Another way that we can think of this, that I can point to it, is to say, love is the realization that the Creator and creation are not separate. Love is the realization that the Creator and the creation are not separate. Love is conscious participation in the reality of God. In Kriya Yoga, we learn that God is Satchitananda, that God is existence, pure existence being, God is consciousness, supreme consciousness, and God is unconditional bliss. So love is the shared experience of that reality. Are you paying attention? Love is the shared experience of that reality. This means everything to us, because it means that we are in God and of God. We are never alone. We are always divinely supported. It means that God's existence is our existence. And that is known to us, it is revealed to us through divine love. And we share it through divine love. It's the unifying factor that Paramahansaji was referring to. It's the harmonizing factor. And he said it's the attracting power. It attracts to us what we need when we need it. So we recognize that this God's consciousness is our consciousness. The existence of God is our existence. The consciousness of God is our consciousness. And our mind is a portion of universal mind. And God's unconditional joy, bliss, is our unconditional joy, bliss. And that is realizing God, realizing that God is our life, our existence, our consciousness, our joy, is realizing that God is the life of all, of everyone, of everything, permeating all creation. In the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter, 61st verse says, "The Lord dwells in the heart of every being." We meet God wherever we go. You know, you've heard the saying, well, wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there God is. The mystic poet Kabir said, "The universe is shot through in all parts by a single sort of love. One love, one power, one presence permeates all that is." We are life loving itself. Life is loving itself through and as us. We are consciousness becoming aware of ourself, itself. I had a really fun experience of this reality yesterday when I was thinking of sharing this message with you. I was sitting in my room, my study at home, and sitting in my chair, and then, just my chair is by a window, and right outside that window is our garden. There's a deck in the garden. And I'm sitting there and I'm pondering, how to bring this reality of divine love that pervades us and that we are called to live in and express. That's it. How do I take that higher teaching and articulate it? It's always my Saturday challenge. So I'm sitting there pondering, and then I get this feeling of somebody looking at me, right? So I turn my head, look out the window, and there's a little adolescent hawk that has landed right on the railing that is about 5 feet from me. And the hawk looks like it's pondering the same question. It's looking at me. And I'm looking at it. And of course, it could have been any bird, but, hawk carries the image of that which has higher vision. And it was the sweetest visitation. And it stayed while I pondered how to express higher vision. Consciousness communing with itself. And this morning, as I was getting ready to come in and be with you, I went and sat in the silent garden, just meditating, just appreciating the beauty, feeling peaceful. And as I was sitting there, a bird alights on the wall and then jumps down in front of me to drink from the little pool. And it's a dove. And all I could think of course, was the ongoing story of divine love in which God is continually revealing itself to us, is mirroring back the presence to us. And when that dove landed in front of me this morning, I could hear in my memory the words of Paramahansa Yogananda, who said, "In the silence of your soul and in every phase of your life, if you will turn within and say, 'God, I have not forgotten you,' then God comes to drink from the fountain of your love." So our first duty is to awaken to the truth of our being. And then to love all by beholding the one in all. The fulfillment of our nature requires love. And love is the blossoming of our being. And it's what we're here to do. And it's not always easy. It's a high demand, isn't it? It's a high demand. Love calls us to forgive. It asks us to listen, to be always present. It says that we are going to be happier when we give than when we receive. It says worry is a waste of time, and that we can and should trust God's omnipresence. This divine love is not an emotion, it's an open-hearted awareness, the flowering of self-knowledge that will guide us moment to moment. Love guides us. It arranges the meeting of heart and mind. It's love itself that shows us the way, that introduces us to love. Om.